All right. Okay, good people. We are back for another open court discussion live in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Ow.
As far as the panel, if you want in, please come on in. We got plenty room on the couch. Our previous broadcast, we um we discussed the topic from survival to thrival, the power of your 30s. Please go back and check out the replay on the Controversial Counselors YouTube channel. I also put out a couple of reels to highlight the broadcast on Facebook, IG, YouTube, and TikTok. Okay, now for a perfect time broadcast for Monday, August 12th, here we are at 9 p.m. We will discuss the topic Shades of Blackness, Unpacking Colorism in America. As we explore the question of who is black in America, we must confront the intersectional of race, color, and culture, and celebrate the fullness of black identity and all its beauty and complexity. Let me put some food on the table on some ways people identify with their blackness, their African American culture or heritage. Number two, their dark skin tone. Number three, natural hair texture, afros, dreadlocks. Number four, personal style and expression, whether it's in fashion, music, art that reflects black identity. How was that as an appetizer? We have much more to discuss tonight. Yes, we do. Come, so please like and share our video. Don't forget to tell a friend to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. Currently, we are at, I think, 892 subs, eight away
All
from the
right.
next goal of 900. So, people, let's go. The time is now. Or I'm going to question your blackness if you haven't subscribed. I'm going to
What did
question
Biden say? If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. If you don't watch us, you ain't black.
That's it. That's it. All right. So here we are. Another Monday. Um, what's going on with you, Herb?
The play was a success, man. Really. I enjoyed thoroughly all of my castmates, and unfortunately I can't. I don't have the. Actually, I do. I'm not gonna get up and get it. I do want to thank the Beckton Foundation for putting that on, man. It was very rewarding to work with the cast that I did. Um, Special shout out to Kamala and Denise for their efforts in directing and writing that play. Also to Saladin for his work in the research that went into that. And on people, wherever you are, embrace the history that's around you and then go seek that which isn't around you, whether it be in another country, another city, a state if you're in America, or whatever the case is. Um, it 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 really has come to my greater attention. And when I say greater attention, I'm meaning my worldview attention that we as people we are really closed off to a lot of other cultures and how that impacts us. And that's something I'll get into later in the show. But we need to start becoming more culturally aware of why we do things, the people around us, and the people we don't pay attention to. Because when we start to do that, we start to become more aware of just the greater world we live in. And now, the world we look in now, the world we live in, pardon me, is a global sphere. So, just do that. But like I said, back to the play, man. I had a really, really good time doing that play. I learned a few things about that time period, which is the late The middle to late 19th century uh, Civil War Civil War era, and how the Underground Railroad worked, and the people on both sides of the color divide went into doing that. And of course, it's August, so we know what's right around the corner. Football, you know what that means. On Sundays, I ain't to be disturbed.
Is that a part of your blackness?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Oh,
All right. All right. Anita, thanks for joining us. What's new with you?
absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
Sitting here enjoying my blackness.
Okay. Okay.
I was gonna say
All
you
right.
didn't go see a football game.
I did.
How'd it
Ravens
turn
didn't
out?
win. Ravens didn't win. They lost by one field goal, but it's
That's
okay. It was only
that's
preseason.
that's good. They lost. That's good. Thumbs up.
hmm It's only preseason, just like the Bills. It's only preseason. Other than that, nothing. I'm good.
Okay. Me, just amazed about how fast this summer flew by. Way too fast. In a minute, it's time for the you know, hit that trail back to school. They coming, whether we're ready or not. So, you know, which always creates, interesting times. So I look forward to that. And might as well strap my boots and get ready because it's about to be an interesting year, and that's probably for all school districts and schools. It's going to be an interesting year, especially during this election time and stuff like that. So you're gonna have a lot of people on pins and needles and just worrying about the outcome of what our fate holds. Because right now you can see that people are struggling. This inflation is tough. It's everything is just hiked up and jacked up, and you're like, damn, it was certain things was a price, a certain price one week, then you go back, and it's like $5 or $10 more. So it's like, man, so we gotta work together on this one, and
Is this
people
the
gotta.
highest inflation we've ever had?
You said, is it the highest? I don't know.
Yeah, that's relative to the what you're going to use as your baseline to measure it. So um I would actually have to go look into that because depending on what metric you use, let's case in point, let's take a gallon of gas because that's impacted by certain things across this country. We would have to pick a state that pretty much falls in the middle of what a gallon is, what a gallon costs there versus what a gallon costs somewhere else. So let's take some place like Florida that doesn't have a state tax. That's going to impact how much a gallon of gas costs versus say California. California is generally the highest, and they're probably somewhere probably in the neighborhood of $5 to $6 a gallon. I'm not sure because fortunately for me, I don't own a vehicle. But if you go to certain places, like I know, if we travel to Pennsylvania, gas is usually about 75 um, cents per gallon cheaper because they don't have state taxes. So that's relative to what it is. What people generally use are things that everyday Americans use. So a loaf of bread, dozen eggs, gallon of milk. That's why you always hear those used as baselines because they're more consistent throughout the country. So I don't know. What I was shocked to find out is a couple of weeks ago when I was sick, I went to look at a gallon of orange juice, and I was like, a gallon of orange juice is almost as much as a gallon of milk. And that was when I was a kid, that was unheard of. Orange juice was always cheaper than milk, and I was just like, whoa. So
It's a
it's
commodity now.
Yes, it can be, and I'm not saying that this is commodities, and this gets into trading. I really don't want to do that. Commodities are something that gains value on an open market. If you go, if you go in the summertime where people generally don't get ill and they're not consuming as much orange juice, and when people are getting sick and they consume more orange juice, that can also drive up the price too. So it's the supply and demand thing. So while yes, it is or can be a commodity depending on where you live, so can apple juice, but it's only produced at a certain time of year. So if you get uh, uh, a winter freeze that hits Florida hard, that can also run up the price of orange juice. And see, because of modern conveniences now, we can have orange juice any time of the year, apple juice any time of the year. We don't have to wait for the apple crops to actually blossom in the northeast or in the colder regions of the country because they need the sleep cycle and all of that. Same thing, the same way that orange trees need that cycle to replenish themselves. So all of that becomes relative. I mean,
I
like I
just
said,
feel
I would
like
have to
orange
look,
juice is a luxury these days, like a luxury
depending on where you
item.
hey, but that's what I mean. If you go to case in point, if you go to Hawaii, things are really expensive out there because
Hmm.
everything has to be flown out there. So that's why, depending on who you ask, where you live, you're gonna get a different set of answers. You're gonna say, "Oh, it's not too bad here. It's worse than what I what I ever recall in my lifetime." But we're also making more money. So what are you spending it on? What do you need
But
versus
the more money
luxury
we
items?
make is basically evened out by the price of everything else. So it's not really we
Sure.
make more money. I think this article was something in USA Today that this is the highest inflation that we've seen and historically.
Okay.
I think that's what I was
That's,
reading. That's what I was asking.
well,
And
if
I,
the paper's saying it, I'll acquiesce to it.
and I also think some of the stuff like orange juice and stuff like that, not to belabor that point, uh, but it might rise too up because, summertime, alcohol beverages. Then we're in this new thing of people always wanting to do brunches, mimosas, and things like that. So, that's trending. Everybody want to have a good brunch um, or go to brunch. That's like the popular thing now, to meet up for brunch. So, of course, that could drive prices too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
All of that.
to get on this subject, and like I said in the promo, that, you know, one of the things, Herb, that you mentioned, like who's black in America, and it kind of led me to the thought of what we're, going through now, and as we about to get, more heated up with the presidential campaigns and elections, that some people say Kamala, she's not black. They're like, she's not black. So, and that may be a reason why some people say they're not, black people may say they're not going to vote for her because they don't really feel that she's black. But when you look at her skin and things of that nature, you say she's a black woman.
She's
But
a
also,
people of color.
or also they may look at, well, she doesn't, some of the things she doesn't, engage in the black culture, or so that's one of the ways sometimes people identify with blackness. Uh, the way, some blacks express themselves with their culture, whether it's the way you wear your hair, like I said, the way you dress, the way the language, the vernacular you speak. So
Mm-hmm.
some people identify that with being black. And if you're a black person and you're articulate and you speak very well, some black people may say things like, "Why are you trying to be white? Why you sound like
Yep.
a white person?" So it's crazy how all of these little things kind of shapes and forms people's opinions.
But also, I'm wondering, okay, if she is black, like, why would you vote for somebody just based on if they're your ethnicity? Why not find out what they stand for before you just blindly vote on their ethnicity or background. To me, that makes no sense. You, in my opinion, she was vice president of Biden. So, in my opinion, what has she really done in the past couple years as vice president? Has she fully supported Biden? So, if we vote for her, 4 years of disaster like we've seen the past, couple years. Like, to me, just voting because you're being a black person and voting because she's black is ridiculous. Just like I wouldn't vote for somebody just because they were Armenian or Western Asian. I mean, people need to open up their eyes and think about what you're really voting for. That affects the next 4 years and longer.
Well, I'll answer that question in this.
I mean, I can just
particular-
imagine why. I mean, I have some good, ideas of what I've heard from
Well, go ahead. You can
black
speak to it. There's no
population.
wrong or right answer.
No, I'm just saying, from vaguely listening to people, not having a conversation with them, I've heard, like, if they vote for Harris because she's black, she'll be like there's going to be an uprising of the black community. And I was like, well, why does there have to be an uprising of any ethnicity just because the president is of your color or culture or background? I guess maybe it had come from the less educated about certain political problems or views, but it's just like I feel like, from my perspective, when Obama got voted in, I know some black people were like, all right, now it's going to be like the black people are going to take over America. I'm like, what sense does that make? Like, aren't we all like united? I mean, well, we should be anyway. Like, United States of America.
That's just a word.
I know that's just a word.
Your actions have to reflect and demonstrate that, and we know that's not
Right.
been the case with many.
Oh, of course it hasn't.
But to get back to what you were saying, go ahead if you weren't finished.
Oh no, I was basically done. I was just saying, from my perspective, being a little bit educated, not a whole lot into politics, it should be who has the best interest of, I'll say, the lower class, middle class involved, because we are sinking and not swimming. The middle class is basically collapsed. So if you're lower middle class or poverty level, wouldn't it be advantageous for somebody to really research the views on these candidates and see what they're really about?
Well, shout out to Charles Faulkner. I'm going to use one of his idioms. He likes to say, they're playing chess, they're playing checkers, we're playing chess. The masters are playing risk, and the rulers, I'm sorry, they're chess, checkers. What was the other one? He said, we're playing checkers, the wealthy are playing chess, and there's another one I'm missing. And the rulers are playing risk. In that,
Mm-hmm.
you
No, I
have
get
what a
that.
lot of people we have what a lot of people refer to as identity politics, which is what you're speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at that in identity politics, ultimately the question becomes, who does an individual identify with? And this is why we get into the whole colorism thing and what Carmela is. So historically, if we were to reset the clock back 125 years, there will absolutely be no question by anyone anywhere as to what Carmela's ethnicity is. She would be considered black. And that's all because of the legal classification of the one drop rule. And the one drop rule stipulated that if you had any, doesn't matter, any hint of black in you, your ethnicity, your genealogy, you were considered black.
And it's the exact opposite in Brazil, countries like Brazil.
And there's a very good reason for that. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Let me finish this up because then we can get to that. So when you look at America, just for this particular instance, because I'm going to get back to the Brazilian comment, if you look at the United States of America and its history with regards to the treatment of the Negro populations, which is what black people will call coming out of slavery, you can start to see how all of that starts to gain traction because slave owners made it with their female slaves and they produced what is called the mulatto class. Now, because of their hue, some of these people were educated. So you have the boule class, and you can look that up. I wouldn't necessarily get into the complete definition, but the boule class was considered the buffer class, shout out to BGS, between black people and white people. So they tended to be more educated, more influential, more upwardly mobile. This is why you have a lot of people that want the lighter skinned child. We won't get into hair texture and all of that because that's another wing of the discussion. Because they stood a better chance of being more economically viable. Now, to get into what you were saying about Brazil, there is a particular reason why that's like that in Brazil. If we look at the transatlantic slave trade, of the vast majority of slaves that were taken out of Africa, I think about 70% ended up in Brazil. See, when you hear the transatlantic slave trade, people tend to think of only those slaves coming to the United States, which is a very, very small amount. Only 300,000 actually touched the shores of then the colonies because it preceded the United States in that regard. Most were either in the Caribbean or Brazil. This is why Brazilians tend to be of a darker hue. Now, if you were to go to Brazil, they have the same issues regarding colorism that we do in the United States of America. Their classification of them is almost the same as it is here. So you have some people who are darker, who are not treated as well, and then you have some people who are lighter, who are more akin to, depending on where you go. So you have Brazil, Portugal. A lot of people overlook the Portuguese in their handling of transatlantic slave. We always tend to think about countries like France and Europe just because of their footprint on the globe. But Portugal is spoken in a few countries in South America, so they had also the Spanish. So that's why you get that influx, and out of that, you get the Latino class. So if you go to certain parts in Southwest U.S., you will see that influx, and they start to intermingle or mate with the indigenous population, if you will, there. So then you get another class of people who are also fairer in complexion. Case in point, if anybody watched any of the Olympics, you will have seen a number of people from traditional European countries, Western European countries, who were darker than what we have previously known. This is because you're getting an influx of people who are migrating throughout the world, be it war. Go ahead.
But I'm saying in such place like Brazil, even if they
Mhm.
do have black in them, they're not considered black like it is here in the US.
Correct.
That's not culturally how it is. That was the point
Correct.
I was making.
No, you're correct, but the reason why is because they don't have people that look like David and myself. Everybody there is what they would call whitewashed, because they didn't have enough black people to to make a consolidated pocket of black people. So all the Africans that, even though they came there, they were bred out. So
Even today
because
with the passport bros movement,
you'll never be able to recreate a black population where it was not the primary population. In other words, let's look at it like this: China with 1 billion people. How long would it take for China to actually become a black country?
a long time.
It would never happen. You can't produce enough people to turn everybody there the complexion that David and I am. And that's what we have. It's easier to go from darker to light than light to dark. Because once you, and this is what, people like Dr. Umar Johnson are preaching against, is we are destroying our own genealogy by mixing. And this is what the KKK used to talk about. Don't don't mix with those mongrels. You're going to dilute our gene pool. Into a manner of speaking, both are correct. So you get into all of this, and then people who are color struck, they say, well, I don't want you to do this because we're not going to have this. We're not going to have. The world has been moving that way. Ever since travelers from foreign countries have touched down in other countries, one of the ways that they got into the family was to marry into the family. And usually that meant the man was going to marry into his wife's family. So by virtue of marriage, not anything illegal or salacious or amoral, they were going to breed out. They were going to produce children that looked like both of the parents. So if one parent came from Russia and the other parent came from England, you were going to produce a child that was a mix of the two. Didn't matter. And eventually, through the generations, that child is going to resemble what the parents are. Case in point, I saw a female at the corner store I usually go to who was multi-ethnic. One of her parents was Guatemalan, the other one was El Salvadorian. Now, to look at her, I could tell that she might have been Hispanic. My first guess when she asked me was that she was Puerto Rican, but she was darker than your traditional Puerto Rican. So when she said it, it wasn't a surprise to me. Then I was like thinking, okay, what ethnicity are you? Then I asked her, I said, are you multi-ethnic? That's when she said it. This is what being around different cultures and different people allows an individual to do. It allows an individual to sit there and say, okay, wait a minute, you're here. And she was born in California, so she's an American citizen. So you see that, and if you're not aware, you start to ask, well, how does that happen? People don't sit down and pull out a map and say, oh well, those countries aren't that far from each other. Hell, it's a short ride with a bus car to one country, and you get two people who produce a child. I mean, honestly, it's as simple as it seems. This is what we have. So, like I said, if you go to places in the Southwestern United States, you see that. If you go to places in Florida, you're going to see that with a huge influx of the Cuban population, the Spanish-speaking people. So, depending on where you are in the United States of America, you're going to get that. Same thing with India. When we hear the term colorism, we tend to think only of the United States. China has a problem with it. China has a huge problem with it. Korea has a huge problem with it. As a matter of fact, if you go look at a lot of the Chinese people who come here and they immigrate, they have Anglo-Saxon names. Why? Because they want to fit in with the dominant society. It allows them to be upwardly mobile. Conversely, if you look at some of the black names here, we can see by the names that they're what we would call black. You can't go anywhere else in this world and find what we consider to be black culture, as David mentioned, of the United States of America. I look, and this is the one thing I always love about doing these type of shows is when I'm doing the preliminary research, and I don't do a deep dive to write a book. I do preliminary research so I can get some talking points. Ragtime. I'm pretty sure most of us all know or have heard of the song "The Entertainer." That was written, I use the term written lightly, by a black person named Scott Joplin. Now, I didn't know that. I love The Entertainer as a song, but it comes out of the period of music called ragtime. As David mentioned, music. The culture of Black America, in terms of what we established, touches just about every aspect of American life. From food, culture, the way we speak, how we dress, the way we do things. Hell, we just saw the Olympics, and what new event was added? Breakdancing. But if you look at social media, depending on, I'll get you, Dave. I'll get you, Dave.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I just seen comments, and I'm like, that's just, I don't know. I don't know. I never even looked at any clips of it. But go ahead.
Was there another one? Esports gaming.
Say that one more time, Anita.
Esports gaming.
I think you mean EA Sports.
EA Sports, is that what it
Yeah.
was?
Yes.
No, it was like hold on, I had it wrote down. I can't find my glasses as usual. Never mind.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, yeah, it could be. But there are a lot of black people, black Americans, who were looking at this and saying, this is not the type of breakdancing that we grew up seeing. And for anybody that needs a frame of reference in terms of what's being spoken about, there are a couple movies. One is Breaking, and the other is Breaking 2. Beat Street also. So go watch any one of those movies if you want to see what black people in America consider to be traditional breakdancing.
So who won?
A Japanese female won gold, and I don't know who won for men.
Yeah, see, that's just, when was this when was this put out there that they were going to have this competition? And I'm pretty sure somebody from New York City, Chicago, LA, any urban city would blow anybody out of the waters. And maybe that's me just speaking on my blackness, that I know no one could see us in breakdancing. So that's just, I don't know. Just don't see it right. Seemed like a gimmick to me.
From what I heard, there were some rules and stipulations that were put in place, which is why the competition looked the way it did. But from what I heard, you can't repeat moves. So that essentially takes the windmill out, head spinning, and which left a lot of people to up rocking. And these are different facets of breakdancing if you never heard the terms before.
So it also brings me to the thing: who the hell was the judges, and had they seen actual breakdancing and know, like, yo, he was nice, or whatever the case is? This is what I'm talking about. To me, it's just like watching a boxing match when you have some older person that's 75 and they're judging a boxing match, but never got into a damn fight and don't even understand the sweet science, but they're judging a match. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and see what the criteria was for the event himself. But yeah, man, I mean, breakdancing is just one of those. We look at, like I said, ragtime. We look at jazz. We look at the blues. We look at R&B. We look at Motown. We look at hip hop. All of those are what most would consider to be black musical forms. There's absolutely no question about it. Even rap now is, at once upon a time, I'm not sure if that's still the case now, it was the world's #1 music genre in terms of sales. So when I say, we need to start branching out into different cultures so we can understand this, that's what I mean, because we don't know where the next cultural outbreak is going to emanate from. We just don't. Uh, Korea has their version of pop music. They call it K-pop, and that's trying to be outlawed too. But I won't get into the reason why that. But there's a lot of. I wrote down a list of names, so I want people to answer this question. I want people to tell me what all of these people have in common. I went back and dug up some historical figures, and I'm going to point to some present day figures. Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois. Those are the historical figures. I'll get to today's. Derek Jeter, Barack Obama, Patrick Mahomes, and the 400-meter hurdles gold medal record-setting female, Sydney McLaughlin. They all have one thing in common.
Black dads.
Say it again.
They're black dads.
They either have a Caucasian female as a parent, as a mother, or as David said, a black man as a dad. They would all be considered black by the one drop rule. So when we talk about whether Kamala is black or not, according to that, Kamala is black. There's absolutely a question. And this is when it bleeds into education. All of our historically black universities and colleges were created for the boule class. They created to educate the master's offspring with his female slave, because they thought it would be a disservice to have one of his children be ignorant. So when you start to look at the historical figures that I mentioned, W.E. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, they were educated formally. This is why they were able to speak and do the things that they were able to do. It wasn't by mistake. It wasn't that they were quote unquote self-educated. They had a hand in getting the education that they do. So that in and of itself started the issue with colorism, because house Negroes were treated better than field slaves. You would never ever see somebody of a fair skin working in the fields. It didn't happen. Generally speaking, they were in the house. So you start to already set the template for who's going to be liked and disliked, and for what reason or reasons. So now you take that and you start to look at present day America and present day colors. That still permeates itself. A lot of people, they have that ingrained in them, that because you're light skinned, you're going to get more opportunities. And that very well may be correct. People are going to treat you better. That very well may be correct. You're not going to have half the issue with law enforcement that you have. All of these things may be correct. I'm not here to tell anybody what is or isn't correct, what is or what isn't accuracy. We're just simply here to talk about how it permeates the country and people of color. The other thing is this: Black people have never had the power or the ability to determine what was Black to us. We were told what was Black. So when slavery ended and it was abolished by the 13th Amendment, all those slightly melanated kids, they didn't stay on the plantations. They went with the mother. So already coming out of slavery, you already have a less melanated class of people. And the women produce children. Now, the women produce children with darker men so they could get some melanin in that child, so that their offspring wouldn't be picked on as much or ostracized. Even if you look at certain people today, especially if they're biracial, they get picked on. And I wish I had the clip to be able to run that. There was a female in the store, and I think this is in Dallas. She was biracial, and there were some darker hued women just looking to pick her apart. She was in a beauty store, and the woman was going at her. She's saying, "Why are you in here? This store is not for you. You can grow your own hair."
Oh, I saw that.
And it was depressing and disheartening to find somebody that would just verbally assault somebody like that. It was just like, but I'm like,
Right?
that's where we are. And
And
whether
that
it's
woman was so pissed off for somebody she didn't even know.
mhm. but
I
but
couldn't believe it.
that's part of the colorism thing. That's part of that whole identity that you're not black or you're not black enough or things of this nature. Because, and I'll go back to Carmela, everything that Carmela did in terms of her growing up is reminiscent of what a black woman would do. She pledged AKA, which is a black sorority.
She what?
AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha. It's a black sorority, black
Oh,
female sorority. So, she
it
hung
said
out with
her.
black.
Oops. It says
Go ahead.
her dad was Jamaican and her mom's Indian.
Correct. Absolutely. But like I said, if we were to reset the clock back to the mid 1900s, we would be considered that. The same thing with Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey's father's Jamaican, but his grandfather comes from the Iberian Peninsula. And I figured that would come up, which is why I'm glad you said it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look back in our history, no one, no black person anyway in the United States of America is completely African. We're all carrying some genealogy, some blood from the ruling classes, former owners. So that's why it gets murky when you try and define who's black. Because are we going by their skin tone? Are we going by the way they speak, where they live, their level of education?
And that's one of the things that's, you know, it was near and dear, like just growing up in our black communities,
Mhm.
that for a while, if you were darker skinned, you were the brunt of the jokes. Um,
Yeah.
I remember, and I'm not the darkest person, but probably at one point I was one of the darker kids on the street. I was Dark Vader, Black Spook, everything under the sun. Uh, and and people, and that's how funny acting is. They never want to admit it, but I know growing up at a time that the light skinned dudes were the dudes that the girls liked. If he had curly hair and he was light skinned, and me being black, uh, as my niece always say, with your black self. But I laugh at it because it's funny because I'm strong in who I am.
Yeah.
Now, but they would be the ones that would get the girls, the girls. They were the ones that the girls like. He is so fine. You see his pretty hair and all of that
Hmm.
stuff. And
Hmm.
someone with an afro and that was dark skin didn't get any props like that. And I always tell people they're like, oh no way, no way. I said, man, probably when the black when and during my era when the black man became got on the scene and people they may not like the way he moved now, but it's when Jordan rise to popularity,
Hmm.
when
Yeah, about that
everything
time.
was about Jordan, and then you start seeing a change, and girls start liking darker skinned guys, and I probably benefited during that time because all of a sudden they looked at, oh man, he's neat, he's clean, he's always matching head to toe, uh, he got some nice skin or whatever the case is. But before that wasn't the case. So now it was a shift, and then people they still kind of clown light skinned dudes, and they look at them as being weak.
Yeah.
But before that wasn't the case. So it's just so many spins and stuff on colorism and how it made you feel and how you perceived yourself. So, and a lot of times I used to question myself as a kid, like, damn, why do I have to be this dark? Why can't I be the light skinned kid with the curly hair or whatever the case is? But now that I think about it, I was like, man, that was crazy thoughts I had. Crazy thoughts. But what do I know? I was a kid.
Yeah,
Elder
it's
Bog made light
yep,
skinned
yep.
guys popular.
hmm Those
Sure
musical
did.
groups were there. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I'll be sure. Lionel Richie. Mm-hmm.
Which branches into another aspect of black culture coming out of slavery. Negro spirituals led to a lot of the different forms of music that we have. We tend not to really think about you know religion in a particular way that we do, but you look at churches with the designation AME, which stands for African Episcopalian Methodist, that came out of slavery because Africa didn't have Christianity to the likes that the United States did. The United States is pretty much settled by people who are Christians, unless you look at Quakers and um name just the other religion just eluded me right now, Mormons. Outside of that, Christianity was the dominant religion. So when 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 excuse me, when the slave owners, excuse me again, when the slave owners went to church, the slaves went with them. The slaves were indoctrinated into Christianity. So coming out of Christianity, the preachers were oratory geniuses. They were the ones who were put in charge, you will, of the direction of black people. This is this is why you hear about the Dr. Martin Luther King's and his speech, Malcolm X, Barack Obama, because they're great orators. That comes out of them being educated. Even though Malcolm X didn't actually attend any established university when he was incarcerated, he took to learning and didn't emerge as a speaker that he was known to be. This is like David said earlier. You know, we may have been off air when especially black men, they speak well. They're accused of acting white. Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's not something that black men are supposed to do. Black men are not supposed to be known to be masters of the English language, to have a grasp on the language that they speak. And so this is why a lot of law enforcement agents, and shout out to the people that I know that are in law enforcement, I'm speaking about you. I'm talking about the ones that come in contact with a black man and he speaks well and he starts to recite things. Oh, they get that thought process. Oh, you one of them niggas. Or you think because you speak well, I won't bash your head in, or I won't arrest you, or you can't have this done to you. So even though you've emerged out of poverty and you've managed to get yourself into a class where you won't think you have to worry about certain things, there's always that little man in the back say, hey, you still a nigga. Like they used to say to Michael Jackson, oh, he got his nigga wake up call. These things are not isolated incidents, but they only reinforce what colorism can do to a group of people. I'm not here to tell you people to have a different mindset about it. I'm just here to give you information. Like I always say, it's better to make an informed decision. So when you see a black person acting in a certain way, try as best you can with the information you have to say, you know what? This individual may have been the victim of unintended racism, of unintended discrimination, because of the historical precedents that had been set long before I was born. Shout out BDS again. He said that the safest place sometimes in a interracial relationship, black man, Caucasian female, the safest place for a black man to be is having a white woman in front of him to defend him. I want people to think about that for a moment. Why would a black man need to be protected by a Caucasian female? The answer is very simple. Law enforcement is much less likely to mistreat and assault a Caucasian female because they know they will catch the wrath of a certain group of people. One of the reasons why they are the least likely to be killed by law enforcement, you can check that out. So when we talk about these things, it permeates every aspect of our lives. And I know I'm talking the United States, but the same thing holds true no matter where you go in the world. Fair skinned people are always going to get more of a beneficial treatment than darker skinned people. Anita was talking about South America, Brazil. Same thing there. Same thing in China. You would think a group of people who have the complexion they do would not invest in bleaching themselves. They do. Like is that Korea? Japan is probably a little less. Some of the Asian countries probably be much short, but like I said, they're all vying to be in a better economic status, and that drives a lot of what people think, do, and how they act when it comes to certain things. And color is at the base of that. This world foundation that we live on, in that regard, is the foundation. Is the bedrock foundation of a whole lot of things. So the only way we can effectively deal with it is to, one, in my opinion, one, acknowledge that it exists. To not acknowledge that it exists, in my opinion, is just foolish. And two, like I said, these are my own personal opinions. Examine your own biases. Three, work to make sure that those biases do not come out and impact the decisions you make that can impact somebody else. And I'll give this an example. If I'm walking down the street and I see a group of men, traditional black boots, red laces, heads cut bald, I'm going to have a couple thoughts. One of them is, I need to get the fuck up out of here, wherever the hell I am, because I don't think it's safe. Now, some people will say that's racist. And I will say, you know what? You're absolutely correct. But I will also say this. By me going another way, I'm not hurting them. See, there's nothing wrong with having a concept of prejudice, if you will, in yourself. Because all that means is you're using a certain set of circumstances to prejudge a situation. Like I said, one of the things is, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you're fine. So to remove yourself from what you think might be a threat is not wrong. It's called being prudent. If I go into a club and I see a bunch of people that are dressed a certain way and I'm in a suit and tie, guess what? I'm probably getting the hell up out of there because I'm not dressed the part. So why be a target? And this is where you get the people say, "Oh, you think you're better than them?" And no, has nothing to do with that. That has everything to do with my comfort level. So if I'm not comfortable somewhere, why would I subject myself to something that I'm uncomfortable with? And a lot of people, they will pass that off and say, "Oh, he thinks he's better," or "She thinks he's better," or "He don't want to hang out with us." No, it's not that I don't want to hang out with you. If I know you, I know you. But if I don't know you, I'm not necessarily trying to get to know you in that environment.
And,
Now, if we have, go ahead, Dave.
And we talked about this before, and that whole the statement of people like, "Oh, you think you better than someone else," blows my mind because we all know that we're not all equal.
Mhm.
Some people do things better than others. Some people behave better than others. Some people carry themselves better than others. It's not that you think you better than someone else, but you're in tune with yourself, so you know your antennas go up, and you may say, "This may not be the environment for me," or somebody say, "Hey." Prime example, when I was just down in South Carolina. One of my cousins was like, "Hey man, let's go to this neighborhood bar, like right around the corner." And I'm like, it was already hot as shit, so I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to no uncharted territories when it's like 95 degrees and it's like 10 o'clock at night. And
Oh,
so then one of the other guys was like, "Nah," he was like, "I ain't going there." He was like, "Them women in there got gunshot wounds and needle marks in them." And so that clip, I never was going to go anyway. But when that guy who I'm assuming he lived there already had a beat on how the club, the spot was, that just solidified. You don't go nowhere that is going to put yourself in harm's way, and you have to KYP. You got to know, not know your personnel, but you got to know yourself. So you say, "Nah, I don't want to go nowhere that I'm gonna feel uncomfortable," and it's already uncomfortable with the heat, and we know, and maybe uh, a myth. Well, there really ain't no myth, but we know people cut a fool when it's hot, and they
yeah.
aggravate, and you're shoulder to shoulder with people in little spots that, like corner bars, is usually regulars, and then you see a new person around, you're a target. You could easily be a target. So why put yourself in the situations? Oftentimes we put ourselves in situations that we don't have to be put in, whether it's colorism, whether it's the opposite race, and you say, maybe I shouldn't venture off in this side of the town because I know how they feel about, and not all, but you may know it's a bad spot. Or it could be black on black, like, oh, I'm not going to this neighborhood. I know what they do. I know how they get down, or whatever the case is. So the bottom line is being comfortable with who you are and being able to get a read and gauge certain situations to say, no, I ain't going there. I ain't doing that. I never want to go anywhere that I got to be shoulder to shoulder with somebody, and it's that type of crowd. People need to be wise and wake up on those situations because that's how a lot of stuff gets started. One little bump, and with alcohol included, it can lead to a disaster over nothing. So, got to be mindful of those type of situations. And yeah, and one of the things, question that I wanted to let me pull it up. Hold on. It said, "Can one be racist against their own race? And if so, how does that internalized racism impact the black community?" And we know that there's internal racism or colorism on how we treat or perceive people, and even in the schools, that you may have people that's originally from Africa and they come to the schools. Well, African Americans or Black Americans, because some people don't like to be called African Americans. They say, I'm not
Yeah.
from fucking Africa. Don't call me that. So Black Americans may treat them different, or the ones coming from another country may view us as, and I've heard some of them say, "You people." Well, you
Yeah.
Americans, what do you mean by that? So they come in with a preconceived notion on how things should be. So it's a lot of strife between uh, internal strife. So we have so much to worry about socially that when you think about leaders, when you think about principals at schools and different things like that, though we need to have people who can handle those type of situations, because I keep telling people that social and behavior stuff is bad. It's bad. Like fights that could break out at the workplace is probably gonna be on the rise. That grown as people fighting on the workplace because
Yeah.
people do not know how to handle conflict, and they don't have no filters. Uh, it's it's bad, but people continue to sweep stuff under the rug and think it's not an issue. But
Oh, it's an issue.
one of the things is I always said 50% academics, 50% social skills. Uh, if you don't have a balance, if you think school should be 90% academics, you learn how to do math and all that stuff, but you can't function out in the world, then you know where the problem lies.
Mhm.
Again, it needs to be a balance because that's the only way things are gonna turn around. Other than that, we're gonna keep seeing the same shit over and over. And that's
Yeah.
real.
I just want to throw out a couple of designations. For those of you who are unaware of certain designations outside of Black Americans, Negroes, you might hear these terms being spoken about among Black people. So I'll tell you what they are. You might hear FBA. That stands for Free Black Americans, which is references essentially, you know, Black Americans who had slaves as great grandparents. And also, you may hear the term ADOS. That stands for American Descendants of Slaves. So you may hear those two terms being banted about people when they're talking about reparations or things of that nature. We're not here to discuss it. I just want people to understand, like I always say, I believe in giving information so people are more aware of what's being spoken about. You might hear this in a newscast, you might come across it in the paper, or as just Anita was saying at the top of this broadcast, you might overhear a conversation. And I invite people, when things like this are being discussed by people you don't know, ear hustle. Yes, you heard me. Be discreetly nosy, because you're going to hear unfiltered talk.
Hmm.
And it's one of the things they teach you when you wait tables is, hey, listen in on conversations, because sometimes somebody will have a problem that they will discuss among themselves, but they won't necessarily tell the wait staff. And guess what? If you hear something and it's not your table, you go back and tell the server, hey, look, go check on your table. Why? They said everything was fine. Go check on your table. Next thing you know, how did you know? I overheard them talking. They say, oh, thank you. Guess what? Your tip increases because they think you're a mind reader, when in fact you just had somebody being nosy on your behalf. Think about, and Dave just alluded to this. If you're out in the spot and you got some cats that's screaming on you, you got some females that's screaming on you, and somebody overhears them and they cool, they say, hey, look, man, I know you're not from around here, but them cats is looking to hit you up. Get up out of here. And that happens. You have people that do that. They don't want to see somebody coming in from out of town who don't know the lay of the land hurt. They say, hey, man, get your peoples, man, get up out of here. They looking to scheme on you. Get up out of here, man. They don't like you. They don't like you Northerners. They think you coming down here with your fancy clothes and this and that, and you here to take the little women they got. That I'm telling you, that shit happens. This is why I have a hard and fast rule that when I go out of town, I don't talk to no female unless she meets a few prerequisites. One, I know her. Or two, somebody said she's so cool, they recommend talking to her. Other than that, I ain't messing with no female if I'm from out of town. And I can tell you, I've done this often. And I've been in New York City. I've been in Toronto. I've been in Las Vegas. It's the same rule wherever I go. Not because I'm racist or I'm prejudiced, But like David said, you got to know yourself. And I know I like to flirt. I'm kind of shameless at times, but I gotta rein that wolf in. I gotta say, hey, wolf, stay your ass in the back. You might get us fucked up. I ain't trying to leave out of here sinking and stitched up. And no, I came in here whole. I'm trying to leave. Oh, sit your ass in the back and shut up. Don't you say nothing to nobody because I know you. You type of person that act like a nigga. Yeah. But I mean, it's so, and that goes for anybody. You go to a place where you're not known. Hey, the numbers are not in your favor. Somebody might be looking just because you look different, you speak different, you dress different, you talk different. They say, hey, look, we don't like you, dude. You ain't from around here. Get up out of here. What you gonna say? No, I got a right to be here. Yeah, okay, you got a right to be in the hospital too. Get your ass on up out of there.
It's probably what I would say. I have a right to be.
And that's how cats
I'm
end up.
hard headed.
That's how cats end up getting loud. I got a right to be here. You ain't gonna move me. Next thing you know, lumped up. What happened? Some cats at the local corner spot was Randy. Why? Because he's not from here. They don't need another reason.
So I do have a story of something that happened over the weekend. It was a crazy, crazy thing. And I just could not believe that happened. So I was at a tourist area, and me and my girlfriend, we went into the CVS. We were out of town. We went into the CVS, just for like a little travel size something. Now the travel size is all on the back wall. And I was like, "Nah, girl, we only got one more day to be here. We don't need that hairspray or face wash or whatever, you know." And so she's looking, and then she needed something else, and I was like, "Yeah, it's down there, like 3 aisles." And then I turned around and went to look at the aisle behind me about something. So here comes a light-skinned black girl. She had on, I don't know, I don't know, she just looked normal to me, but she had on one of those nets, but it wasn't a net. It was like a pink, like crocheted hairnet.
Similar to what they
It
were wearing in
wasn't
a
a
restaurant.
nylon one, huh?
Similar to what they were wearing in a restaurant if they were food service.
Yeah, but it wasn't a nylon hairnet.
Okay.
It was like one of the cloth ones. But anyway, she was just wearing it out. It looked like similar to a bonnet, but it was a hairnet. So then about, I don't know, between 5 or 10 minutes later, here comes this worker from CVS, black girl, and a security black girl. And she was like, the security black girl was like to the CVS worker, there she is with the pink bag. And by this time, my girlfriend had come back to the aisle, and we're looking down the aisle like, who's she talking about? And we're looking at them talking, and like, we're right there. I have my Coach pink purse, which shouldn't have been a big deal, but that's how she identified me, a pink bag. And me and her still looking at each other. In any case, I finally didn't see anybody else down the aisle towards the front of the store because we were still at the back of the store. I was like, you talking about me? She's like, yeah, you. I said, what about me? Because she was saying, before me and my girlfriend were tuning in to really hear their conversation, talking about the security lady said that the girl put something in her side pocket and walked away. I know I didn't steal anything. I know my girlfriend didn't steal anything. And we're just here looking at each other before we realized this girl was talking about me. I said, so, I had to prove my point. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, I saw you steal something, put something in your side pocket. I'm like, no, you're not talking about me.
It's
because
probably
like we were over there about 10 minutes ago. She was like, and then she got cocky with me, so I was getting cocky back with her. I said, "You're not talking about me. You need to prove something. If you got something to prove, go look at the cameras and prove it."
or
She's
you
like,
was
"Come with me." I was like, "Go with you where? I ain't going nowhere with you."
or you was
Because
in Be More cutting up.
oh yeah, I was in Be More cutting up because I was like, "You are not." Oh hell yes, I was. Oh hell yeah, I was. Not just once, but a couple times. So I was telling my girlfriend was like, "Come on, let's just get out of here." But she had something that she needed to buy, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna stand my ground because I don't know why." First of all, she was pregnant. Second of all, she was off duty, and she made it known she was off duty. And third of all, she didn't even work at CVS. The security lady. I was like, "Oh my God." So I was sitting there fussing. She walked away. She started walking. She's like, "Come with me." I said, "Go with you where? I ain't going nowhere with you. What you think? Who do you think you're talking to?" So after that, we got up to the register. The poor black girl that worked at CVS, she was like, she didn't know what was going on. And I thought she was talking. I thought they were both talking about the light skinned black girl that was over there with the pink hairnet. That's what I thought they were talking about. And I'm like, that girl didn't steal it, put anything in her side pocket either. I'm like, what is this? What is going on? So I went up there and
Or
the
maybe
girl was
she
like,
did.
the
And
girl
they
was
was
like,
in
"She don't
cahoots.
even work
They were
here.
working together.
She's off duty." I'm like, "Yeah, that's crazy." I said, "So let me tell you," I pulled out of my side pocket. "Let me show you what's in my side pocket." It was my phone. I said, "This is what I put in my side pocket." I had on some stretch pants so you could clearly see it's the shape of a phone and not a shape of like a round hairspray container. I told her there's some racial profiling in here. We were the only white people in the whole store. Okay. Not only that, but there was some light skinned, good looking black brothers in there, chit chatting with us, just like laughing about
They
I
didn't
don't
want
know
you to
what.
think they're LB Shores.
I guess.
Mm,
I don't know. But
it
then
sound like it. Sound like it. Sound like the
but
Dutch
then
brothers wouldn't got no rhythm.
I don't know, but then on the way out, I still had to make jokes on the way out because I could not believe that happened. And the security guy at the door, he was a dark skinned black brother, and I said, "Let me." I said, "This is what was in my pocket before there's and ever or any more controversy before I walk out this door." He was like laughing. He's like, "No, you're good. You're good." I was like, "Okay." So then my girlfriend left her umbrella in there. Good thing she took the umbrella tag off before we went in there. So we get to the corner. She's like, "Oh, I got to go back to CVS and get my umbrella." I was like, "Girl, no, come on." So she went in there. I was like, "If they accuse you of stealing something, I'm already irritated." And everybody was just laughing after that. I'm like, I just cannot believe, what is this black girl? She's pregnant. She's off duty. She doesn't work at CVS as security. What are you doing, girl? And she was all the way at the other end of the store in the back. How could she see even what I was doing? I didn't even see her. It was crazy because I wasn't doing nothing wrong. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, is it that serious in the CVS?
Hey,
Mm-mm.
could be. Could be. You want
I
to read
guess
that, David,
maybe,
or should I?
Depends on where you at.
huh?
No, I was speaking to David. I said, do you want to read that comment or should I?
Well,
from Clever
you
Girl
can go
Reading.
out, but
Okay.
it's a legitimate question.
Yes. Clever Girl Reading asks, perhaps I was just wondering if we might discuss why our males don't provide resources, protection, and security for the Black community. As David said, it's a good question. I know they say don't answer a question with a question, but I'm going to break that rule. Clever Girl Reading, what does that look like to you?
And one of the things I want to say that we and I can say even in Niagara Falls, and my brothers was part of that. The Nation of Islam always had people in the community uh, trying to patrol the community to keep everything safe, but nobody wanted that. They didn't want that. They got shunned upon because, oh, I don't want no bean pies, I don't want no final cause or whatever. But when them brothers was on corners, they was alert. It was no worries because they were on top of things. And now things when you talk, and that was their message, to respect and protect uh the black woman, because we're talking about blackness tonight, but they kind of dismissed. So now you're leaving it into the hands of probably some unworthy people to protect you, because any man that cares about a woman or whatever the case, he wants to protect her. That's his thing. He wants to keep you out of harmful situations, but y'all got to be willing to want to be protected. But here's her response.
Okay, I'll read her response. She said it looks like businesses, jobs, hospitals, land, homes, apartment, banks, grocery stores, gas stations, and on and on. Like males from other races provide for their communities. I'm talking about as a collective. I'm going to read a quote that I have written here before the show. Malcolm X said, in order for there to be black white unity, there must be black unity first. So, in order for us to work as a collective, who has to lead? Hey, Jedi. I'm just trying to wait for an
What's
answer.
going on,
I
brother?
don't, yeah, I don't, like that. And it's a legitimate question, but the problem that comes in is this, and we've discussed this before. I always reference the Monahan report.
Bring me up.
Can you bring her? Can you bring her up, David?
Well, she got a. Did she request for the? What is this, through YouTube?
Yeah, yeah. Jedi, we are accustomed to dealing with unruly women. Trust me. I got an Excalibur that I can unsheath at any moment. No problem. Respect begets respect. Also, disrespect begets disrespect.
See, I don't know if she'll be able to click on.
Just drop. Can you post a link in the chat, in the YouTube chat? Yeah, click on the link.
Yeah,
Clever
send
Girl
it.
Reading. The link should bring you right through. It should bring you to the backstage where Dave will be able to bring you up.
I said the warning was the Roger report earlier today, cutting up. She's here to bash black man. She's a
That's okay.
very contemptuous and disrespectful. You call on how you engage her. Salute.
Yeah.
What did it say?
That's see it. The warning says this woman was on the Roger Report earlier. For those who don't know who the Roger Report is, the Roger Report is another brother who does YouTube content. Okay, so that's that. He says she's here to bash blackness. She's very contemptuous and disrespectful. Your call on how you engage her. Salute. It's this is part of the whole thing that and we've discussed this on this particular podcast at length, is that black women want black men to provide jobs, land, banks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The only question is this: how can black men provide that if at every step of the way we are being fought against that by the black women who claim that they want it? Sister Shirazad Ali said almost 40 years ago now, what needs to happen in order for black women to get what they want. They always talk about what other cultures of men do, but they leave out also what the other cultures of those women do. There's only one leader and one follower. And in the black community, black men had never, and I mean never, been able to lead. Why? Because the black woman was always put in charge. And this goes back to slavery. If the home conditions weren't correct for the women, the slave master made sure she was comfortable. And if that meant getting rid of the black man, that's what happened. I just spoke about how a white woman's I spoke about how a white woman in an interracial relationship had to protect black men. Who do you think kept black men from getting lynched and killed at times? It wasn't that the black man wasn't capable of defending himself, but they were less likely to attack a black woman. That's not a coincidence, people. This is why when you look at a lot of things from a historical reference, black men were the target of violence. Not black women, but black men.
So when welfare came along, our males intentionally left our homes and put our women and children on welfare. Is that how it really went?
Yeah, I already know from reading the comments. Hold on, Anita. Hold on. I already know from reading the comment that she does not have historical facts and accuracy to lean on. You can't put anyone on welfare. Welfare has to be chosen. So even if black men were to have left their homes with the women and children left behind, it still would have been up to the women to go and actually apply for welfare, because honestly, welfare is not new to white America. It was new to black America because when FDR rolled out welfare back during the Great Depression and the late 1920s and early 1930s, guess who the recipients, the vast majority of recipients were? Caucasian women and children. Blacks always had to rely on each other. But see, you can't see, and this is where you try to slide a hand, twist the face. I'm much too savvy for that bullshit, and I'm gonna call it what it is. That's bullshit. You can't talk about black communities and then mention welfare and talk about black men leaving, because black men have never left their homes. They were forced out to allow women to take care of the kids. So if you're talking about that regard, yes, black men left so that the women and children could live. But that's not abandoning the homes. That's not abandoning the women and children to the welfare state. That's leaving so they could survive. There's a huge difference. See, this is what happened.
So they can survive, like
because
go to work.
There was a man in the house rule, and it was generally enforced in the black community, where if a social worker came over to the house and they did inspections, routine inspections, if there was a man there, they automatically lost welfare benefits. But what she's trying to do is say that black men left the women and children in the community to suffer. And that's not the way it is.
I was thinking her comment could go that way, or it could go the opposite way.
What's the opposite way?
Right. The men, you're still not in the home. Okay. The men left the home, just like you said. If social services come, they don't get welfare anymore. So the
Correct.
women and children can get more benefits. The man can live somewhere else, work, and also contribute to that household. I
But the
know,
problem,
I
but the
know when I was 5,
Mhm.
I remember we were on welfare, and I remember eavesdropping, being nosy in grown folks' business, and I overheard a similar conversation. Now that wasn't the case in my life because my parents got divorced, but I do remember similar conversations throughout the family, you know, being had about that. But some men did abandon the family, and some men chose to live elsewhere with a family member so they could work, contribute to the family, and so that the family also had the benefits of welfare and um what's that thing? WIC and
yeah,
government
but
cheese.
Wick,
Them government cheese was good too. I will never
yeah,
be
but Wick,
ashamed to say I ate government cheese.
yeah, but Wick is actually a church based support system. It's not necessarily government, even though they get tax paid. But back to what she's talking about.
But you still have to be approved for it, and if you make too much, I think
Correct.
you're not
Yes,
approved for it.
that's correct. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. There are still guidelines for it. What I'm saying is not taxpayer supported in the way that welfare is. Now, going back to what she was talking about, men not being in the homes and fatherless children. Newsflash: the fatherless rate among Black Americans since 1972 has been on the rise. There's no question about that. Conversely, the number of Black men producing children has been on the decline. I want you to follow this now. So, if the number of Black men producing children is dropping, but the rate of women having children without a father around is increasing, where's the intersection in how do Black men get the blame for something that they're, how do all Black men get the blame for something that all Black men aren't doing? Because I myself, I have no children. So am I still to blame for leaving a home with children?
So black males make single mothers of women from other races as well, more than anyone else. 40% of black males have children. She coming with her stats and data. I wish she could link up and come
Yeah,
on here.
but that's cool. If 46% of Black men have children, then that means 56% don't, which lends to what I was just saying about the number of Black men that aren't producing children. So Black women have to question themselves: why do we consistently keep having children with ain't shit men? When you answer
Because
that question,
initially they might not act
hold on,
like
Anita.
shit men.
Hold on, Anita. I want to spread this real thing like we ain't got no more jelly, but we want some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So why do Black women keep choosing men that can't provide, don't provide to have children with? Black men do too. The
Mm,
only problem, the
not
only
all
problem
the
is Black
time.
women don't want to follow.
Every other
Black,
race of males provide businesses, homes, on and on. Is that for their families or for their baby
She's
mama? Or
she's look she's probably looking at the dynamics of what goes on when foreigners come here and they get all these breaks where black men don't get the breaks, whatever. So it looks to them that, oh, they're providing for their family and all that stuff, but you got to look at the whole perspective before you make judgments like black men just, I guess, ain't shit to you. Black males as a collective don't provide, don't own anything.
well, let's get the brass tacks here. How many kids do you have? Clever girl reading. Let's get the brass tacks here. How many kids do you have? And are you married? Okay,
She
that's
said,
fine. That's fine. And are you married? Wait a minute. You're married with no kids, but you're talking about. Well, let me ask this question: what is your ethnicity, and what is the ethnicity of your husband?
The audience can't see what she's saying. I
She
mean, I
no. She
can't see
just
what she's saying.
she just. I asked if she's married, and she has no kids. Okay, so you're asking a question about black men, what they don't do, and you're married to a black man who I'm going to assume is providing a home for you to live in. So why don't you ask him where are the other
We have
men
to eat shit
like
left
so we
now.
him?
also have to look deeper. We
Oh
also have
yeah,
to look deeper about her father. With your dad, what did your dad provide for you? Are you mad at him?
because see what people when people ask these kind of questions, they refuse to go back and look at the history. Clever girl reading. We are well aware that you can go into 4 Hispanic grocery stores or other Hispanic businesses in your neighborhood.
I mean, is she
That
black
is,
or white
hold on.
or what
No,
ethnicity is she?
she's black. She's black. The problem becomes that if black men are going to lead, if black men are going to build, then they need not want they need black women to follow because black women feel that they don't need to follow the tutelage and the leadership of black men. So you can't have a horse with 2 people riding and the person that's sitting on back trying to grab the stirrups and lead. It doesn't function like that. You don't get leadership by always trying to lead when you should be sitting in a subservient role. Now, that doesn't mean you can't voice an opinion. That doesn't mean you can't have some input. That means at the end of the day, whatever decision is made by the leader is the decision that is going to be made.
And it's
She's going to
hard.
build it
It's
anyways.
difficult sometimes when you're used to being the leader and then you get a man that is willing and able to be a leader to fall back on the subservient role.
You said you want something for nothing. Are you saying black men want something for nothing? Because like I said, nobody can give anybody anything.
Wait,
From what I understand,
hold
we
on, hold
all
on.
have
What does this mean? You want something for nothing. You don't provide anything you gave us to the government.
what she's trying to say for anybody who's confused is she's saying black men have abandoned the black community. Black men don't support black women in the families that they have made. Last I've looked, the definition of family has changed from father, mother, and children to mother and children. Black Lives Matter, what was their original manifesto? They wrote out black men. So let me ask you, what exactly is it that black men are supposed to do when the leaders of social movements are trying to write out heterosexual black men out of the community? Cover girl, she
I'm
asked,
I'm
hold on,
still going back
hold on.
to Jetta's comment about free lunch. Like what?
I didn't see it.
I did. Well, if anybody ever studied understanding poverty, um, they would understand that it's not easy being a single mother. It takes a lot of work that other people that aren't single mothers don't experience and cannot understand unless you've been in that role.
But that's not necessarily what she's not talking about just that.
I
What
know
she's
I'm
talking
talking about this comment by Jenna. These other women support their men. Black women, on the other hand, want free lunch without loyalty. Where do they do that at? Oh, in the dysfunctional. I can't read. I don't
democratic
want to mess it up.
democratic environment. See this gets back into the narrative that black men, today's black men, because she said 1960s, aren't providers, protectors, because we don't own businesses, we don't own banks, we don't own land. So currently, the home that I occupy, I own. And so do a lot of other black men. The problem is this: men like myself, when we were kids, coming up, going through high school and into college, we saw the handwriting on the wall.
What do you mean?
I've always said, hold on, I'll explain. I've always said that if I didn't have kids by the time I was 30, I wasn't going to have any kids. If you want to know the state of black relationships, all you have to do is look at Gen Z and millennial black boys, and they're dating out. They're not dating out because we told them to. They're dating out because they see how black men are treated by black women. Why do you think the Passport Bros has gotten such traction? Not by happenstance. Why do you think in dating sites black women are on the lowest rung of people to be responded to? This is not a coincidence. I, I She said a recession is coming. Newsflash: we've been in a recession for quite a bit now. Had you joined in at the top of the broadcast when Nita talked about inflation, you'd have heard that. Yeah. Okay. Like you said, bon voyage. Go, shorty. You ill equipped to have this discussion. A
Wait a
serious
minute.
discussion.
Wait a minute. Bring her back. Bring her back.
Oh, well, she's not. She was never on a panel. She said she was leaving. I don't personally. I don't care if she stays or goes, but the talking points that she's using, they're flawed. In regards to what I just said about
There's something here besides statistics. It's what you see growing up, what you experience growing up, and what you've lived growing up that is of value to the person and their opinion and perspective of what they're talking about. Just because statistics say XYZ, on maybe United States of America, doesn't mean that that's what another person has experienced. Like
she's specifically talking about America.
Okay, I'm just saying.
For one thing, if she has a black man and she's sitting there talking, who is she mad at? Is she mad at him? Because if she's content in her own situation, you don't filter out and make these statements like that, because you kind of look at it like, yeah, it's really not my issue, whatever. So she's throwing out a lot of information, but she has a man. So who you really mad at? Who are you mad at? Either your man or your daddy.
I mean, for instance, for example, David, do you remember how many, or not how many, but like, yeah, was it popular to see single mothers on North Avenue? Do you remember that far back?
I remember far back who had fathers in the household and who didn't, and it was kind of mixed bag. It was kind of mixed.
Hmm. But even if there was a father in the household, doesn't mean they were a good father. Doesn't mean they were a good husband,
But that's not,
No,
or
Anita,
or
but that's
good
not
to
what
their
she's speaking
family.
of, though.
it didn't, but they had more resources.
But according to statistics, I hate that word because I almost failed that class. But according to that word, all they're talking about is single mothers. It's not talking about if the dad was and boyfriend was good to them. I mean, they may have been good up until maybe a year after the kid came along. And then the guy might have been like, okay, this lifestyle isn't for me.
But see, this is, but
People
see, this
change
is,
their minds. But after, it's already, nothing you could do about it but leave.
but see, this is what people overlook. The institution of marriage was a safeguard against that.
Used to be.
No, it is. There's no two ways about it. The institution of marriage is a protection for women against being a single mother. If
Okay,
we look,
so it
hold on,
doesn't.
hold on, hold on,
Okay.
Andy. If we look at the inception of modern day marriage, which is about 200 to 300 years old,
Who
and then
Jetta
we start.
talking about? I got my own damn house, dude.
No, no, no. Leave the chat alone for a moment. If we look at the institution of
Don't make me
marriage,
cut up.
and then we get into how the guy, how I'm sorry, the democracy, how um, patriarchy was ran. Patriarchy was set up so if there was ever a problem in the marriage, those children of that marriage went with the man.
I
Okay,
never seen that happen.
because you're
I
not
never heard of that
historically,
happen. I never heard
because
that's
you're not,
why
hold on,
patriarchy
hold
was
on,
such.
hold on, because you're not historically adept with the information. So this is why I always tell people I give you information and I want people to research it. So when we get into England, and I always forget the name of the law. When they get into England, it wasn't until that was changed to the oh I can't remember the what's his name. It wasn't legislation. It wasn't law. And I always want to say no children left behind. It was the I'll remember it later. It wasn't until we get into the switch where when the marriage ended that the fault uh parenting went to the women. That was in the mid to late 1800s. And then you get into the 19th century and into the mid 19th century, like the 1970s, 80s, when no fault divorce, and then child support laws kicked in, where the divorce rate started to increase, and then the fault of uh, child custody went to the women. This is why you always hear women talk about men don't fight for custody. Well, why should a man have to fight for custody when he had a part in making something that's there? You never hear
Because
that from
okay,
women.
go ahead.
You don't. So, in what world does that make sense that something that came of a union between two people has to be fought for? It's like the old proverb it's like the old story in the Bible. Two women were fighting over custody of a child. Both women were saying that the child was there. And the king was going to split the child in half and give half of the child to each woman. And woman said, don't do that. Give the child to her. You know what the man said? You know what the king said? He said, this has to be your child because no mother will want to see harm come to her child. This is what we deal with in Black America, but people refuse to call it out because, as Jedediah said, we live in a gynocracy, and it has been that way from day one. Black men have never had a cogent say in what goes on in Black America because we were put in a subservient role to Black women
How?
because we were never allowed to speak on behalf of the Black family. I said
Is
this
that
about the
how
slave
it is
master.
nowadays?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely it is.
I haven't seen
Who
that.
was the Black family?
I haven't heard that. I haven't seen that.
The Black mother. When
What?
when Obama when Obama wanted to initiate the I'm forgetting the name of all this legislation and things. Um, My Brother's Keeper program. Who was responsible for derailing that?
What's my brother's keeper?
My Brother's Keeper was a program that Barack Obama was going to have federally financed that was going to help address and ameliorate, pardon me, some of the issues in the Black community.
Like what?
Because childless, I mean, child fatherless homes, Black male unemployment, which is still, even though it's higher, is still at a low compared to other ethnic groups. That's why she's talking about Black men don't build this, Black men don't own that, because historically speaking, Black men, comparatively speaking to other male ethnic groups, with the exception now of Hispanics, have always been underemployed. That's not new.
I guess the bigger question is if you're bitter about black men leaving the families, can you function without government assistance? Can you? Because oftentimes we talk about, you talk about child support, you talk about government assistance. I think, and Herb used to bring this up about the children coming with the dad. I don't think the dad's gonna go down and apply for child support or any government assistance. They just gonna roll with what they got, and they're gonna let the kid know this is what we working with, and you're gonna roll on. Don't want no parts of that. Don't include me in any of that shit. Whatever government assistance. Don't put my name on any of those documents. So that's when sometimes you may have to step up and say, "Damn, I got to work another job," because that's what
Mm-hmm.
men do. Uh, Work overtime, work other jobs. A lot of you don't want to do that shit at all. At all. You know why you don't want to do it? Because assistance may be provided where men don't have that luxury. So, but they don't want to be bothered. Like, I'm not about to go to court for your mother. She ain't got to give me shit. I ain't giving her nothing, but you coming to live with me and we gonna be all right.
Let me
Where the
let me
problem
let me
becomes when a
go ahead. I'm
man
sorry,
has
guys. Yeah, go ahead.
has a woman that's not the mother, and your child is doing well. She's blossoming. She's blossoming, and everything is going good. Then the biological mother is she don't like that. So it's so many variables, so many things. But clever girl ring, you throwing a lot of stuff out there. So hey, we for it.
Yeah, this is.
I mean,
Let
is
me.
that her experience though?
No,
Say
that's not
what?
her experience. It absolutely isn't her experience.
'Cause she
That's
seems
that's.
awfully mad.
Our males
Say it
that
again,
way.
Anita.
I said she seems awfully mad.
And like David said earlier, why? If she's married and they're doing fine, and she has no kids, what would she have to be mad about?
I don't know. Ask her.
No,
We've been
I
asked.
already know what the answer is.
I don't know what the answer is. I want it to come from her.
Oh, she's not going to tell you because she's deceitful.
Hmm.
See, this is the irony. See, now I'm gonna start using her own rhetoric against her. She says she lives in the Black community, but she says she can go to 4 Hispanic grocery stores and they're there. When I lived in the Black community over on Highland Avenue, guess what we had?
Verbs.
We had we had a Black grocery store, and that building still sits there on that corner. So it's not that black men don't build, it's not that black men don't create, it's not that black men don't own. They do. The problem is this: when you have everything, and I mean everything, working against an entity or group, and specifically because you mentioned Black Wall Street, what happened to those Black Wall Streets? See, she never talks about that. And this is what I mean by the deceit. Because the Black Wall Street in Tulsa was burned. They never tell you about when the U.S. government bombed black homes in Philadelphia. They don't talk about that. Why? Because they only want to tell you half of the story. They don't talk about redlining, which is the chief way that a lot of Caucasian families were able to get ahead. They don't talk about the, and this he talks about that was 100 years ago. See, this is what I mean about the deceit. How familiar are you with the Gilded Age? Clever girl reading.
The what age?
How familiar? The Gilded Age. And if she's as well read as she says she is, she'll know what the Gilded Age is. I'll talk about that in a moment.
Is that anything in the past 50 years?
The Gilded Age is the time post-slavery to about the 1920s when the largest fortunes of most Caucasian Americans were made. So you hear about people like the Rockefellers, Carnegie, the Vanderbilts. That's when they made their money. Why? Because they were able to without anyone interfering. Black people were just coming out of slavery then. So the things that black men were building, they had to build from the ground up. Meanwhile, they weren't able to get loans from white-owned banks. Why? Because they didn't have the collateral. They didn't have anything to bargain with. So if a system is predicated on the wealth that you have and you have no wealth, then how do you build wealth?
I don't know. I came from a long line of farmers, and we were not wealthy.
But this is the thing. She says she's talking about right now. Listen, I don't need to do anything now. As my dearly departed mother would say, all I got to do is stay black and die. All I need to do is support myself. I don't need to support any women.
Okay, so what about let's talk about in the past 45 years?
What do you mean?
Let's talk about the black household in the past 50 years.
The black
in high school, I think I saw black guys treat girls good.
Yeah, but that's not what she's talking about. There's something else I wrote down too. It's called the myth of white womanhood. Shout out to BGS. What black women want is they want to be treated like white women. They want all the things that white women have. So all the homes, all the ability to go out and spend, all the ability to be frivolous with their lives. That's what they want. But she's not going to tell you that. Why? Because she doesn't want to make black women out to be what she's saying that they are. See, this is what people don't grasp about people who have this kind of
trolling.
Yeah, this kind of mindset that she's displaying. She's talking about, look at all these Washington football players, singers, etc. They
all
make
right,
up less than 1%.
What city and state do you live in? I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious.
She's probably from the South. Either she's from the South or a major city, because that's the biggest collection of where Hispanics live. And see, this is the funny thing, and this is what Kevin Samuels used to talk about when he talked about high value men. He used to exclude those men, but the only problem is this: high value men. Kevin Samuels said he didn't include high value men that were athletes, singers, entertainers, etc., because they made their money a different way. This is why he used to lay out the stipulations for what he would say was a high value man. And I won't get into those. The point being, and see, and here you go. She's saying that that there are no high value black men. You're talking to one sitting on the far left. He's not going to tell you, and nor should he.
Well, one of the things is really what she really is taking shots at her man to the left or right,
Yeah,
wherever he's at on the couch. That's who she's taking a shot at, because you don't know us personally. You're speaking on a you're speaking in absolutes that all black men are like that, but you mad at the person to your left or to your right or whatever. He might be in his man cave or whatever the case. You might be on the porch and he might have put your ass out and you might be sitting on the porch. But who knows? Either him or you mad at your dad or your grandfather. That's it. So this is where this is coming from. That's my
and see,
take.
I'm amused by it personally because, like David said, she's a troll. Number one, number two, these things have been levied at black men for generations. This is not new. And anybody that's listened to this podcast for an extended period of time, you will know that this is not new. Dr. Umar Johnson, who I mentioned earlier, talks about the same things that she's talking about. So wait a minute. Isn't Dr. Umar Johnson actually building a school? Doesn't LeBron James have a school that he contributes to? There have been other athletes who you call washed up who have also done these things. Matter of fact, let's go back to about the 1960s West Coast. Matter of fact, Los Angeles. The Black Panther Party. Didn't they start Head Start? Weren't they responsible for food programs to feed the needy regardless of what color they are? Where do you think Head Start came from? Hey, that's for the black women that are dumb enough to contribute to them. We told y'all years ago, but y'all didn't want to listen to us. Y'all like to listen to people like Umar Johnson, Derek Jackson, and his new cat coming up. I'm
Okay,
minding my own business. Hold on,
since we
Anita.
get
Hold
nowhere
on.
with this topic, can we change to the next subject or next topic?
No,
Um,
this is a topic.
no,
Colorism is a topic.
no. What else is the topic though?
Colorism.
Talking points. What other talking point?
There isn't one.
It's just
There's one.
general.
We talked pretty much. It was what was the title of the thing?
Unpacking.
Unpacking colorism. So this is a part of it.
Yes.
And she's firing off stuff. So we're just engaging,
Oh, I thought there was
engaging with
more
her.
like specific talking points. So, have
No.
you ever heard of Black Irish, Herbert?
No, I can't say that I have.
Okay, never mind. Don't look like that. I'm waiting on some chicken wings.
What are the black males
See,
doing for our
and
community?
this is and see this is the type of nonsense that you continually hear from black women who claim that black men aren't doing anything. Well, first of all, what black communities are there?
Where do you live? Like, what city and state does Clever Girl Reading live in? That's what I'm curious. Can you
Listen,
tell us? Can you let us know? We need to know what's going on in that community.
if she got a man and she living with him, she don't have this mindset because everything is fulfilled. People who have a fulfillment, they're not filtering out on social media, blasting off with that because she like that don't really pertain to me. Of course, we all you're concerned overall about the plight of your community, but you're just not doing it. Oh, social media and making these type of generalizations or whatever the case is. So there's something deeper there than this. Unless you're just trolling, but
What
I'm
is
thinking from
trolling?
the counselor perspective. Is there something deeper that she's suffering from? Black owned business don't pertain to me. Shut up
A
for
troll is
real.
somebody who just appears on a podcast or on a social media post just trying to stir up trouble and debate that really has no end.
Mm.
So she says, black owned businesses don't pertain to me. If a
Black
black
owned.
owned business doesn't pertain to you, then why be concerned about it? That's what makes no sense.
She's think she's slow.
She said she's black, like 100% African American,
Yes,
black
yes,
American, I'll say.
yes.
Black women die in childbirth more than any other race.
Yeah, like Jada says, she may be off her meds. Seriously, somebody come pick her up on a short bus to take her to work.
Why do black women die in childbirth more than any other race? Is it genetics? Is it like what? Why?
There's a few reasons. One of those is the health of black women, the overall health of black women. So when you go into a pregnancy with prediabetes, higher than average blood pressure, or your weight's too great, what do you think is going to happen when you add the stress of a pregnancy to that? Death, maybe. See, I'm well aware of what she's talking about, but see, what people won't factor in is this. Black people as a whole, we're number one in the country in terms of bad cardiovascular health. That's not endemic to any gender. But because, and this is something Sister Sherazade Ali wrote about almost 40, maybe 50 years ago in her book, Sister Sherazade Ali. She's a Muslim woman, member of Nation of Islam, I believe, who talked about the need for us to change our diets.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote a book called The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. And guess who she got the pushback from? It wasn't black men. It was black women.
Why?
Because they didn't want to be outed the same way they do Candace Owens. Who chiefly attacks Candace Owens?
I love Candace Owens.
Hold on. Who chiefly attacks Candace Owens negatively?
Black women.
So when you talk about, or so when it's spoken about,
why is she white? Women, I don't know.
Because they consider what she talks about to be what white people do. Well, if we want white people results, then guess what we need to do? What white people do. But you got people like Clever Girl Reading who will convince you that black men need to do their own thing. Well, newsflash, black men live in the United States of America. So black men just can't arbitrarily walk out of this country, build a country on land that they don't have.
Why not?
Black women, where do you get land from?
I don't know.
So, like I said, black men can arbitrarily walk out of this country and take land and build on it, which they don't have. See, this is the more than nonsense.
Well,
she says, go ahead, Anita.
No, I can't see her up. Wait, I can't see her new comment. What's her new comment? Stop laughing. I can't see it.
She says, doctors don't treat.
White people have businesses and create jobs. You buy it. We just bought some. You buy it.
Notice how she says. Notice how she says. We.
Who is we?
Just what? Exactly.
Black women, white women.
Exactly. She's talking about
white people.
Hold on.
Black men.
She's talking about her husband and her. Notice I said husband. They're building together, which is something that Jedediah said earlier in the comments, because they're women, other ethnicities, women work with them. Black men don't have the cooperation of their women, so they can't build, because anything that they try and build, somebody else is tearing down with their goddamn hands. What does the Bible say? It's better. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Judge not lest you be judged.
It's said that is better, and forgive me if I misquote this. It's better to serve, or it's better to live. It's better to serve something. Let me get this right, because I don't want to misquote it too badly. They say it's better to serve a master in hell to live with something in heaven, something like that. I can't remember how it goes, but this is what black men have to deal with consistently. You
which
have to
is
deal with
the
it.
opposition of black women.
Yes,
Hmm.
that's to put it simply. And this goes back to what I was talking about coming out of slavery. The education wasn't put into black men, it was put into black women
How?
because black men weren't going to live as long due to the threats of being killed. So the
Oh,
resources
let's see.
were always put into the woman. This has not changed. Why do you think there's such a low graduation rate of black men in this country in terms of high school? We're not even getting to college. Wait a minute. See, this is how people trip themselves up. She said we have to deal with the lack of resources, protection, and security. Who exactly is we? Last I looked at, like I said earlier, black women weren't the target of police violence. So who needs protection?
I'll say me with my smart mouth, but
Okay, so if the black community needs protection, then why don't black women listen? Écoutez, listen to when black men are saying don't procreate with certain types of men. Why
which
don't black
what
women
types
listen?
of men?
Say that again, Anita.
What types of men?
The type of men that have 6 kids by 6 different women. As she noted earlier, 46% of black men have kids. That means 54% don't. Why aren't black women marrying those men? Why don't black women want to build with those men? If two people are making $40,000 each when they start out in their mid 20s working, that's an $80,000 family. They can work their way up to being a high income earning family. But black women don't want to do that. Black women don't put themselves in the position to be that type of woman. Why? Because a lot of them have kids out of wedlock. What did Kevin Samuel say? No man worth his salt wants to do that. That's a bygone era. Black women want to continue to live recklessly. And then when they get older, like we talked about in the last podcast, 30, they want to settle down. And guess what? Men are just saying, we're not having it. You did what you wanted to do in your 20s. In your 20s, now we're gonna do what we want to do.
Oh goodness.
Susie, you're right. Okay.
Oh goodness. Women just can't win. Just can't.
What do you mean can't win?
Can't
There are
win.
women are winning every day.
Mhm. Anyway, so I was mentioning Black
Yeah.
Irish people and asking if you know anything about the prehistoric Irish people. They were black and had blue eyes and curly hair, which is
That
very interesting because these people, so they lived on the, what's it called? Along the coast. And then
well,
sooner or later, uh, people they went inland, and people from the modern day Turkish started to populate, and they started to mix populations, and very
You said
interesting.
prehistoric. You got to give the time for reference.
10,000 years ago.
see, the
I can.
thing is, you can't go from a heated discussion about probably inner city black community issues than black Irish people. So she's still firing off into things, and I don't know if people minds could shift to that because
She's-
Well,
this
no,
is right here.
it's something valid to talk about because colorism. We're talking about colorism. They have blue eyes,
Yeah, but
dark, dark
but so do
complexion, and
Aboriginal people.
curly hair. So I was curious, like maybe. So I've heard I've come from a Black Irish descent, and I don't know. I was just researching it, and it was interesting.
Yeah, but that's nothing new. Aboriginal people in Australia have those features. That's not new. It's just not talked about.
Yeah, Black Irish people are not talked about
Why is that?
because not enough people know about it.
No, because there's not enough of them to make a difference. This is what I was talking about.
Not here in America. I mean,
Anywhere.
probably not.
But that's the point I was making about if you tried to turn China black, how long would it take? That's why I made that reference. Because even though those pockets of people may exist, they're isolated. They in the grand scheme of things, they don't have a very big footprint. And to let me address one of this some other silliness she said. She said black males make up the largest population in prison. Why is that?
Wait, what did it say? Because I didn't
She
see it.
said black males make up the largest population in prison. And I asked, why is that? So you get people like this who like to pick and choose about what
You're
they talk
violent.
about. And she says we're violent. Last time I looked, black men have never started any wars. Correct me if I'm wrong. Also, if we go back to post-slavery in certain locations, particularly in the South, black women were made to go to work, even if they had a husband who was financially capable of not having them work. They did that under the threat of sending those black women to jail because white men didn't like the fact that their wives had to work and black women didn't. But see, she won't talk about those things. Why not?
Is this an AI? Who is this
No,
woman?
this is a real individual.
Because she's known for communities where we can't have our own judges, lawyers. She keep like double talking, saying the same shit. You should have created this for us.
And clearly, either she's young, clearly she's ignorant, or she doesn't understand how the United States of America works. Let's take the 10 acres you own. Let's take the 10 acres you and your husband own. Well, let's dig into this. Let's take the 10 acres that you and your husband own. Have you guys built a hospital on that property? What about a school? What about a bank? You can't set up an individual court system. You know why? Because you still have to adhere to the laws of the state in which you live in. By the way, you have not disclosed. No other males don't.
She mad at her man and her father and her grandfather. As simple as
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. See, people. This is
I
the
mean,
kind of not.
that's some kind of example that she's seen. Seems like it got to her.
Well, that's what I'm
No,
saying.
it's not
Her
just
man, her
she's seen as
father,
what
her
she has.
grandfather.
All right.
And this is the type of nonsense that a lot of black men have to deal with. Personally speaking, I'm none of what she's spoken about, and this is something I've spoken to before. Roughly speaking, in the existence of the United States of America, roughly 4 to 6% of the black male population has ever been incarcerated. Because you get dummies like this who don't understand statistics will continue to tell you that black men are violent. When even if we take the 4 to 6% and we move that out, that means 90% of black men that have ever been born in this country have never been in jail for anything. So how does one get violent from a group where 90% of people have never been a criminal on any level, whether they've been charged with a misdemeanor?
I work for a black company. You're the most violent group in the community. Mr.
I
Dago,
think it
please take
depends
it
on where you
from
live.
seem to be on your controversial counselor couch. Oh yeah, she definitely need to be on the couch. But I can't force her to come on the couch because to me, come on the panel and say all this whatever. She just talking and firing stuff out there, which is
Because in other places like California, it's Hispanic men are the most dangerous.
She, Anita, she using dated talking points, and that's all black women like this do. She says she tried to come up, just like black men tried to build. Sure, you did.
yeah.
She's young, I can tell you that. But she's young and or foolish. Nobody's questioning what you're using. We're questioning how you use it. So if you're saying that black men are violent and you're using FBI statistics, that's fine. But what you're not doing is you're not using any frame of reference in terms of why, other than to say black men are violent, why black men are the most incarcerated group of people in this country. You haven't used any frame of reference to point out that the criminal justice system targets black men, whether it's just or unjustly, and gives out longer sentences for quote unquote violent offenses, comparatively speaking, to other ethnic groups. Drug 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 convictions, which in California happen to make up a large part of why black men were incarcerated, were considered violent offenses, even though nobody was harmed. So, wait a minute. How do you get a violent offense where nobody was harmed? That doesn't make any sense. Nobody was hurt, nobody was killed. Oh, wait a minute, they're trafficking drugs. This is right along the reason why people who dealt crack were given longer and harsher sentences than people who dealt cocaine. See, she's not going to tell you that. Why? Because she don't want the truth to come out. So if black men aren't building communities, they're not buying property, then what are you and your husband doing? Something's not right. You got resources in your community. You and your husband are evident of that. But the 54% of black men who aren't fathers don't see the need to put into a community where they're not going to receive a return on an investment. Why would a man give his money to women who don't listen to him, who don't help him, who want to take, but not give anything? See, we don't need a different outcome. We need a different group of women. We need a group of women. We need a group of women who aren't color struck, who are looking for the men with the good hair, the light eyes, and who are on here fucking discriminately getting pregnant by the 46% of men who are leaving the home, as you call it. You don't need to listen to us. We don't need to do anything. The same way y'all don't need to listen. This is why black men are leaving the community. So it's not that we don't understand. We understand very well. We understand that the farther we get away from black women like yourself, the better off we are.
She probably need to hold
And,
on to her
and that
man.
is not debatable.
Sweetheart, you probably should hold on to your man and cherish him more because I don't I don't see you coming up on anything unless you stay with him because you're not going to come into any relationship talking all this rhetoric when you got somebody, well, maybe dead. I don't know. Shit, because I don't know why you oh here coming. You're not leaving the community. You live in the community. You just talking,
And see,
but it's fun. It's for
this is the real.
entertainment.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, it certainly is because I haven't lived in a black community in well over 20 years.
Mm.
I can assure you that. Matter of fact, you know what? In the city I live in, there aren't any black communities. None. They've long since been gone. Are there pockets of black people? Yes. Would I call it a community? No. You know why? Because there are no men in those communities. They're single parent led homes. And anytime black men come in there and try to establish some type of direction and structures, like David said earlier, when the Nation of Islam was here, they're laughed at, they're ridiculed and scorned, and damn, they ran out of town. Because you and your husband haven't built any on your 10 acres. Talk to your husband about building that stuff. You got 10 acres, that's a lot of land. Build the grocery store, build the gas station, build the courthouse, hire black judges, build a
What do
black hospital.
10 acres of land? Just curious.
Say it again, Anita.
I'm curious what they do with their 10 acres of land.
Hey,
Like, just look
I
at
hope
it.
they
Her
build.
her husband is a cat or a dog. Y'all don't see it. It's a cat or a dog. That's her husband. She don't got no damn husband. Controversial college says, baby, it's cold outside. You better hold
What,
on
I'm
tight
not
to your imaginary husband. Yeah, that's what it is. Imaginary husband. She don't have no damn husband. Like Tommy ain't got no damn job. She ain't got no damn husband.
We're about done with this nonsense of your charade.
We just
we don't have time
bring it up.
to
It's
keep
been nice. Clever girl
feeding.
reading.
Yeah.
And every now and then you need someone to come in. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Come on next because you know we might have a little something else different from you because you keep backpedaling with the same shit. Bring me up. Bring you up. Actually, you got a Facebook page. Put the link in. How do you want me to bring you up?
Maybe she doesn't understand. You use StreamYard link on
It
Facebook, right?
doesn't it doesn't matter. The link is a link. If she clicks on the link, it'll bring her backstage where Dave can bring her up. So it doesn't matter if
I
you're
mean,
using
is it
Facebook.
posted in YouTube? I don't know how YouTube works.
No, he posted it on
No.
YouTube.
Oh, like I never find the link unless somebody sends it to me.
Black males refuse to provide resources, protection, or security. Untrue.
But you know what the funny thing about that is this. No, she's correct. Black men refuse to provide protection, resources, and security to unworthy bitches.
Yeah.
Where do you fit in?
I'm wondering if somebody ordered those wings yet.
Oh, I don't know.
That's where I fit in. Hungry.
Guess she talking to you, Herb. Better get that
I have
order
no
in.
idea. I have no idea.
Oh, you cut the
I had-
wings off.
I had some jelly bellies earlier today. I'm fine.
2323. Order them wings, Herbert.
And see,
She
this
said,
is and see this is
let
and
some
this
of
is
the
get-
black
I'm
and this
males
making
is-
a wish.
refuse to
I
provide
wish
resources
Herbert would order some wings.
like your mother,
and see
What?
this is and this
your
is
daughter.
and this is where you get the disingenuous and the stupidity from. Number one, my mother's dead. Had you been paying attention, you'd have heard me say that. Number two, I said I don't have any kids. Three, my sisters are well provided for. So once again, either you're trolling, you're young, or you're stupid. You pick one. I'll bury you in it. It doesn't make me a difference. See, you can't attack a man like me because I'm cool in what I've done and I'm cool in what I haven't done. And I assure you that what I haven't done has negatively impacted anyone. Why? Because I'm not out here causing chaos. My name is good in this city. It's good among everybody that knows me, even those who don't like me.
Hmm.
Those
Yeah.
people who don't like me, they can't speak ill of me. They can tell you they don't like me because of my stance in certain situations. But in terms of saying he's a bad man, no, they can't say that. Why? Because I've never done anything bad.
You've done nothing exactly.
I'm content with nothing. I am very content with nothing. But then again, guess what? I don't exactly have to do anything for anyone other than myself. Why? Because I produce no kids. I'm not married. And I live alone. It's a beautiful life. Well, brothers are doing what I'm doing.
And
So
and
I
So
don't
you
know where. Oh, go ahead. I don't know where
it's just
this came
she's
from,
not
but
gonna tell
it
you.
says, "What
Oh,
race has the most active fathers?" I guess it's Census Bureau. I don't know.
she's
Found that
they, I
she's
think
not
they
gonna answer
said
that
I
question.
think it's blackmail.
it
Blackmail.
Yeah.
says after including controls, African American and Latino fathers had higher levels of engagement in caregiving and physical play activities than white fathers. There are
She's
no
not gonna
differences
she's
in
not gonna
verbal
tell you that. That's why I
stimulation
said she's
activities across race ethnicity.
but that's why I said she's
Oh,
deceitful
that was
because
the
she's not
Census
gonna tell
Bureau
you
from
that.
2014.
Yeah. Because the latest they only did it once, but the point remains that those type of things are consistent. But clever girl, not so clever. She's not gonna tell you that. This is why
Clever.
it's senseless to even engage in this type of rhetoric, but for the
Maybe she
purpose
had a
of
white father.
personally, I don't. What's the one drop rule? No, it's actually not our fault. It's Jermaine's fault.
Who's Jermaine?
It's
I know. I'm just kidding. I read the comment.
so yes, it's our fault.
Jermaine, Melvin,
It's always gonna be our fault. And you know what? You know what else is gonna be our fault? When black
Jermaine.
men stop dating y'all.
Uh, Clever girl, you're ruining it for black women.
I know that
Chill.
black women are just going to keep on being mad at black men fathering uh, children with white women. Chill, clever girl.
No, let her continue.
I think
Let
that's
her
a great
let her
idea.
continue.
I
She's
can't see her updated comments.
she like
Why?
to whiz. She like to whiz. She just sitting there, probably weigh about 600 pounds and shit, eating brownies and shit, just talking
She
shit.
said I,
Some brownies
she said
here.
I, she said I
Huh?
think that's a great idea, referencing what you said, Anita.
What?
Black men having
Black
black
men
men having
fathering children with white women? Okay, I welcome that. I
but
welcome
what else
that.
what the other thing she's not going to tell you was this: the percentage of black women who are having children with black men I'm sorry, with Caucasian men, and guess what they do with those children?
What?
Guess where those children end up? They end up in the black community. You know why? Because white men aren't going to have them motherfuckers around their family.
What? Bullshit.
All right.
Not true.
How often do you see black men with biracial children from a black woman when they're not married?
Wait, you confused me. What?
How often do you see Caucasian men with biracial children from a black woman when they are not married?
It's not uncommon.
I didn't say that. I said how often.
I don't know. I guess if I was out of my house more often, I might see it more often.
You don't see them that often.
I don't know. I know of one.
That's my point.
Natives from other races come with resources, protection, and security.
She meant
I
mates.
guess. I don't know. You must.
Anyway,
I put her in,
she's been
I
I
sitting
put
there
her
don't know
packing.
what family she knows.
I put her in
She's been sitting
timeout.
packing. Yeah.
She's in a timeout.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I put in
she
time
needs to
out.
sit back.
I
It
can
was good though.
yeah, it definitely sparked it up. It gave us because you know what? There's really people that think like that. So that's the whole
Yep.
No,
point
there.
of it.
I get it. There really is.
So she
I,
was just saying that what many people think about that they don't feel protected and don't feel black men do enough for them. So this is how they feel. But then also they got to ask themselves, like, damn, what have I done? Because anytime you question what other people done, you also have to look at yourself. What have I done? And when you say I haven't done anything, then you could expect the same results from other people. So that's how I look at. But it was definitely entertaining, and hopefully she'll come back. I don't know. Maybe she just suspended for tonight because I'm tired of her. Maybe she'll come back next week with some crap. We're gonna get some closing comments and get ready to get out of here. Because I've been these last few days I've been going to the job trying to get things right. Even though I'm off for the summer, but just trying to get things right because I know what I'm in store for.
Mhm.
Any closing comments to everything that was said, even clever, dumb girl reading, whatever her name was. Uh, anything, Anita, closing comments.
In my opinion, when you understand other people's point of view and other people's culture, you you develop a more sense of awareness,
Facts.
mm, which which can lead to better communicating. What is that? Oh, Cheerios. Better communicating within our human race. Heart healthy, heart healthy Cheerios. A whole. I don't know
No,
what her
also,
sign language is. I didn't take sign language, Herbert.
no, go ahead. Also,
That's all I got.
All right.
It
Appreciate
helps to understand other cultures and other backgrounds to communicate better, have a better awareness. And if everybody did that across the US, maybe we might have some unit cohesion. It's terrible that we don't. Everybody's against everybody. I can't say everybody, but that, Herbert.
Go ahead, Herb.
cheerio, mate. Cheerio, mates. Such a jolly good show tonight from Clever Girl Reading. Maybe she's color struck, but I do know this much that a lot of what she is saying has its basis in history. The same way that colorism does, particularly in the United States of America, and more importantly, in Black America. So, how do we advance this whole notion of who is or what is Black? We don't. We can live with the knowledge and understanding that, for the most part, Black people in this country don't really control what we're subject to. We can learn to deal with it as we have and our ancestors have, and we can move on and improve. That's what we can do. And as always, growth and understanding occurs in a gray area. Godspeed and see you next time. And remember,
What's your gray area, Herbert?
either you're putting the brick in the conversation or you're taking one out. Take one out. Have the conversation.
Mm.
All right, all right. And for me, it all boiled down to knowing yourself. So when you know and you believe in who you are and you study your environment, you respond differently. Certain things don't bother you how it used to be because you know not everybody is in the same line of training or understanding So you don't let it bother to you. You don't let it bother you because you only can control what you can control. So this colorism topic or who is black in America, how much does it impact you? If one person think they're blacker than you or whatever the case is because they may have more knowledge on historical figures or they may be more ingrained in the African American culture, does it really bother you? And I do understand we in a competitive society, so a lot of people will go back and forth over that. That's not my issue. I know who I am. I know my struggle. I know what it's about for me and my blackness and things that occurred, but I'm solid. I'm solid, and nobody could take those experiences away from me, and I wouldn't do anything to change them. So people got to be comfortable with who they are, their upbringing, things they went through, and roll on. And you're always gonna find people like uh, clever girl that's gonna come at you. It's how you respond to it that counts. So she tried. You ain't rattle me at all. Don't seem like you rattle her. And Anita was on point with her question. So come again, clever girl, uh, with your rhetorical questions or scripted questions. Try again next week. But we out for this week. With that said, oh man, I forgot. Next week, actually, I back to work full time Monday night, but I'll be prepared. All right. Anyways, we out. On to the next one. Let me see what Jada said. Folks, have a great week. To thyself, be true. This is true. Um, and that's all we can do. Be true to yourself and keep pushing forward. Don't never let nobody push you off your block or your stance. But sometimes you may bob or weave a little bit because somebody might hit you with something that's with value, and you say, "Hey, I could take something away from it." But we all got to keep learning from each other, good, bad, or indifferent. So with that said, we out. On to the next one. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week,
I'll
and
do that
we'll
whenever.
see you again. We out.
Okay.
Peace.
All right, take care.
Making that order. We out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, wow. I'm
It's
out.
been a while, man. I needed some wings.
Yeah, all right.
I needed some wings, man.
Yeah. Hopefully, hopefully, clever girl ain't the one who delivering that shit to the black community. She gonna say, "I told you you can't do shit for yourself. I gotta drop these wings off." All right, we out. All
All
right,
right,
peace.
y'all.